that you need to be well informed. So now it's time to get serious and talk market trends. Here we go. Sure enough, we'll go down a rabbit hole and talk about something cool that has caught our attention. It's JTM. Welcome everybody, let's dive right in.
Hey.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Home Life Podcast. I am your host, John Hallaby, otherwise affectionately known as JH, and I'm here with the indomitable Siarn.
And as you can see, I am so with it.
It's been a big day.
It's been a big day. But not only that, I would just like to say to everyone, he said, we're going to be going and doing this podcast tonight. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no worries.
Yep.
And then I go to sit down and get things started, and he turns around and he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be changing things. I know he'd been changing things. I didn't realise that this was going to be taking place. So normally it's me chucking him underneath the bus, but I don't even know if I'm supposed to be pressing any buttons. He went and pressed the button that I normally am supposed to press, that he normally makes fun of me because I don't normally know which one to press.
And to be honest, I don't even know if we're going to leave that button in. This
is what I've got to work with.
This is it, right? Like we're learning. This will be episode 31. We're learning how to create an entertaining, informative podcast from ground zero. We started from nothing. We're learning this process. There's going to be changes along the way. And this is my little revenge of driving the bus for a change. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and he has also given me this. So buckle in, people. It could be one hell of a ride.
It's a good drop, this. This is a great drop.
Oh, yeah, well, Smidge, hello.
It's technically not Smidge. This one's St. Brioc. Happens to be made by Matt. Matt Wank, who we've had on the podcast. One of the best winemakers in the world, best Australian winemakers. This is what happens
when he just goes, we're going to be changing things. I
ease it with wine. I make it better with wine. But this is
Matt makes a good wine.
Matt makes a great wine. This is one of the ones that was featured during their recent birthday event. So this is the 2016 Sauv Blanc Fumé. Now, a lot of people go, what I've been told anyway, go, oh my God, a Sauv Blanc that's that old. Oh, is it right? But apparently,
I'm not normally a fan of white wine, just so that people are.
Look, the only white wine you and I have really, really enjoyed has been the Fiano.
The
Smidge Fiano.
Wines, Fiano. But this is the St. Brioc.
So this is the Fumé. This is the Fumé Sauv Blanc. Apparently what Fumé means is that it's been aged in new French oak barrels. Yeah. I think I've got that right. And it's incredible. This is our second bottle of it.
Matt, chime in if you like.
Matt'll fix me up if I'm wrong. But look, I'll be more than 2 bottles into the St. Brioc Fumé Sauv Blanc, and I won't mind.
I don't normally do a white, but this smells. This smells nice. Can I just smell it?
Oh, you can do what you want. I mean, I'm going to be getting myself another drink at some point. But by the way, make sure you're 18 plus before drinking alcohol, or
never underage drinking. That's
this is an 18 plus podcast. We are so far off track already.
Oh,
but
I told him to buckle in. It's going to be a hell of a ride.
Well, I'm driving the bus for a change. So
are you though?
Oh,
yes, you are.
Oh, once again, we get an insight into my life. All right. What we do need to do is, because normally we record well in advance, where we're really, really super organized, but I've been on the road with work, been in Sydney, we've been at REIQ graduation, we've been at all these events and all this craziness.
REIQ Awards.
REIQ Awards, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And we just haven't had a chance to sit and pre-record. So this episode is coming out Tuesday, and it's Friday night. But this gives us a really unique opportunity to do a market update, because normally we're recording that far in advance that anything we do in a market update is going to be out of date.
Yeah.
But we can do a market update.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's going to be good. And I've done my research. I've got all my bits and pieces.
Yeah, he's done his research. I have no idea what's going on apart from this is what's happening.
Hey, I gave you wine.
How am I supposed to ask you the questions?
That's the beautiful thing, is because we're going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff we've already talked about in relation to this market update because it all links back pretty much. What we talked about in
I think he's
F1.
lying.
Well, yeah, but that's just you. What we talked about in episode 1 is playing out right now.
It's cute that you think that I can remember what we did in that.
I don't blame you because the episode title was, "Is the bubble going to burst?" And then the JTM was, "And the Aussie gins you'll need if it does."
Is that when we had 2 friends over and they were giggling in the, I'm pretty sure it was, and they were giggling in the other room because the dishwasher was going and we still hadn't got the sound right?
Possibly.
So they were like...
Possibly.
Or,
Mind you, if you listen to the last episode where we had our first ever guest, we still haven't got the sound right. I'm finding someone, a professional, to fix the sound. It was... Paul was too quiet, I was too loud, you were somewhere in between.
That's a bit harsh. Paul is a...
Nothing wrong with Paul. Paul's quietly spoken. But we didn't have the mix, and the people who do our mixing in that are not, like, we need to get a better team around us, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. Okay. And that's hence some of the changes.
Anyway.
Because the podcast coaches jumped in and said, hey, we're going to help. We're going to make this really cool.
What? Let's go.
Let's go. All right. First up, very, very quickly, look, the market has been crazy over the last few years. It's up, it's down, it's around the twist. That was a great show growing up. I know you loved it. I did too. So the question, should you sell or should you stay? Say that 3 times fast while drinking wine.
Should I go now?
And what's your home really worth? Like, these are questions that cause a lot of stress. And to be honest, it's markets like this that the reason I created checkmyhouseprice.com.au to provide homeowners with free house price reports. So you can get all the up-to-date info on what your home is worth and be armed with all the correct knowledge so that you can make a fully informed decision about your next property step, which of course is most important because there's nothing good to be achieved making a half-informed decision. So you can get your free house price report from checkmyhouseprice.com.au or, for our New Zealand friends, checkmyhouseprice.co.nz, and you can get all the info you need to make fully informed property decisions. Speaking of an insane market, we've got 3 key things we're going to cover. We're going to cover the market update. The Prop Track Home Price Index has been released for October. We're going to cover that. There's apparently 1 million empty homes in the country. We're going to dive into the 1 million homes.
There wouldn't be any potential of 23,000 that have, gone missing. That could potentially be in that 1 million.
The 26,000 that went MIA. We'll find out.
Okay.
So we'll dive into that. And one of my favorite humans on the planet, the CEO of the REIQ, Antonia Morcarella, absolutely tore the state government a new one this week. And we're going to cover that and highlight some of my favorite quotes from her press release on that. She was on radio earlier last week. And, of course, we had the REIQ Awards where both sides of politics were in the room.
I know.
And there was a very subtle bomb dropped. Was
it really
fire.
that subtle? I don't think it was that subtle.
Look, I mean, in terms of in political terms, probably not. It was definitely a get your act together because you're the reason we're here, in my opinion, anyway. But let's jump into the home price index. Do you remember what we said in episode 1? Is the bubble going to burst?
Well, from memory, what you have always told me is that technically here in Australia, we don't actually have bubbles.
We don't have a real estate bubble. That's true, because a bubble suggests that it's being artificially inflated.
So then, because I'm learning along with everyone else as well, that question, are you telling me that now there is a bubble?
No, absolutely not. So if we go back to ep1, we covered it again. We've covered it in probably about 4 eps out of the last 30 odd.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the 800,000 homes that were going to come off fixed rate mortgages, and there was going to be this massive glut of properties hitting the market and so forth as well. And we made a couple of really key points. The points that we made in those episodes were as follows. Number 1, there's not a bubble in Australia. We have a supply problem. Yep. There is not enough houses in the areas people want to live to meet the demand. So while there is a supply problem and there is, I should say, while there is more demand than there is supply, prices are consistently going to drive up. Now, of course, the government and the reserve banks' crude lever to try and control that supply and demand issue is interest rates.
Yeah.
So they pump up interest rates, trying to limit the supply of money, hoping that it drives demand down. And then more properties come onto the market because people are under financial stress. But if you remember correctly, one of the things we said is because there is not enough property, we firmly believe that people would live off rice in order to keep their house. Because if they end up out on the street, like if they've got to sell their house, where are they going to go? There's a rental crisis and there's a housing crisis overall. So they're going to do whatever it takes to maintain their property.
Yeah.
So we've had this prediction. 800,000 houses, there's going to be this cliff, this fixed rate mortgage cliff. Property's going to come onto the market. It hasn't.
Yeah.
Right? Not in any great numbers. Yes, there's been an increase in listings, but that's seasonal. It's slightly above the seasonal average, but we're talking super, super slightly.
Yeah.
Right? And so what has happened is all of the losses. So if you remember when the interest rate rises hit, suddenly we had loss.
Yeah.
And we started to slip backwards. All of those losses on a national basis have been recovered.
Yeah.
And now we're actually 5% ahead of where the peak was back in February of 2022. So we have gained 5% on that record high in the last 18 months.
Yeah, right.
Right? So the reason for this, in my opinion, my very humble opinion, is because we do not have the supply.
No, well, we know that. That's
that.
obvious. Like that.
We know that.
Like it's not just people who can buy a house that want to buy a house. It's also people going, we're needing somewhere to rent, and there's no houses to rent because there's just not enough. There's
enough houses to rent. And you brought to my attention, we may do an episode entirely on this once we catch up from the madness that has been our life lately. Choice released an article in regards to rental tech and applications and having to fill out all the details and how dangerous they were from a privacy perspective, discriminatory perspective, and also potential cyber attack perspective as well. So that's a whole nother episode to dive into. But just some real quick numbers. So the estimates based off general population growth in Australia from the 2021 census. So they expected at the middle of 2023, we had 26.5 million people in this country. Last census, we had 2.4 million people per dwelling. Okay. And roughly, we've got about 11 million dwellings as of 2023. Okay. So what that means in exact numbers is we've got 100,000 less dwellings than what we actually need. Doesn't sound like too big of a problem. 100,000, 240,000 people, except
it is.
Well, it's massive. It's 1% of our population essentially. But remember how we talked about the government's pushing for 650 to 700,000 immigrants?
Yeah.
To come into the country, requiring another 200, 300,000 homes?
Yeah. Exactly.
But then we have these articles going, there's 1 million empty homes. So at 2021 census, there was 1,043,776 homes that were marked as unoccupied on census night. We're going to dive into that in a sec. But first, let's come back to some of the figures around the country. So just keep those numbers in mind.
I'll try to, but you've given me wine, so good luck with that.
I love it. So, do a quick scope around the country. Sydney recovered the losses after the interest rate rises 2022 and has now seen 7.51% annual growth. Melbourne has not recovered the losses. It's about 3.9% down from its peak and has had annual growth of 0.64%. No surprises there. COVID and the way they handle COVID is still affecting people. In fact, I think Melbourne had more people migrate out of Melbourne and to other states.
So Melbourne's now the new South Australia.
Everyone's leaving Melbourne. Most of them are coming to Queensland. In fact, we had 87,000.
I do love Adelaide, so don't hold that against me.
No, Adelaide's awesome. That's where this wine comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had, I think it was 87,000 internal migrants, as in people coming from other states, moved into Queensland over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of them came out of Victoria. Brisbane has seen 7.36% annual growth so far this year.
So that's nearly on par with Sydney.
Nearly on par with Sydney.
Which is
and has recovered all of the losses after its peak.
Which is odd. Well, no, not really, given the fact that...
No, you're right. It is. Traditionally...
Traditionally, I'm looking at it. Traditionally, it is odd because normally it's Melbourne and Sydney who are way...
Melbourne and Sydney were always the main ones.
Yeah. But then when you think about it, Melbourne people are...
Yeah.
And where are they most likely going to come? Good old Queensland.
Well, that's it. But if you went back pre-COVID, and if you think of the Australian real estate market like a pond, if you were to drop a pebble on Sydney, and the ripples would emanate out or flow out from Sydney as the heart, right?
Yeah.
And that pebble is a price rise. So it'd ripple out, it'd hit Melbourne first.
Yeah.
So you'd see 6 to 12 months after Sydney started to boom, Melbourne would start to boom. 12 to 18 months after Sydney started to boom, you would see Brisbane start to boom.
Yeah.
Right? And then Adelaide, for the longest time, cruised along at like between 2.3 and 3.5. That's not the case anymore. I'm about to tell you about that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it would cruise along. Darwin and Perth were always mining related.
Yeah.
Right? So the eastern seaboard kind of had that ripple effect. But if we jump and look at Adelaide, its annual growth is 8.77%. It is
Jeepers.
at a record high.
Because doesn't that normally just...
Property prices at record
It normally
highs.
sits at a good little, like, ebb, I suppose, of like... Isn't it like 5%?
No. So Adelaide, if you went back and you looked at like the last 30 years of Adelaide price growth, it was insane. It was consistent.
Yeah, there wasn't
It was
really...
between sort of 2.5% and 4%.
Yeah, there wasn't...
2.5%, 3.5%. And it
coasted. It was just...
Yeah.
It was just like...
steady, cruisy.
We're here.
You'd have pockets that jump and drop in that. But overall, it was nice and steady.
Yeah. Not 8.
Not 8.77%. But this is in part being driven by that internal migration because people are going, I'm out of Melbourne. And they were going, I'm out of Sydney, but they've started to go back to Sydney. They're not going back to Melbourne. And I think we've got Dan Andrews to thank for that and how he handled COVID, that's my personal opinion. But if you look at it, you talk to people from Melbourne who lived through that and they're still traumatized by it.
Yeah.
And understandably so.
Yeah. No, people that fly anywhere are sort of like, they joke about it, but you can also tell that it's also like a secret like call for help. Like
the pain is real.
I wonder if I can go back home next week when I go to return. Even though there's no reason why
the pain is real.
It's a full PTSD. I'm going to laugh about it, but at the same time, I'm internally in the fetal position on the floor, rocking backwards and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I see that there's a nice 10 mark there.
Yeah, guess where that is?
I know how to read upside down, so I think even with wine. So
there's no point even guessing. You've read it. You know the answer, right?
No, but it was just I was like, okay. So the reason why I am like, yeah, right, because I have seen a lot of investors talking about you got to get amongst this, you got to get amongst it, you got to get amongst it. And last time I had heard investors talk like this about going and investing somewhere was like when the mining boom really started to take off in the early aughties, or for us, early aughties, for Mackay and Rockhampton and all of that area up there where it just went, and then, because it had always been traditionally Perth.
Yeah. Mining, absolutely.
Always had been Perth. And since then there had always been, it's good. But now the amount of investors that are going, do you know that you can get a $500,000 newly built house in WA that's all of 30 or 40 minutes from the city from the heart of
And it's
Perth.
amazing you bring that up because two of my best mates, one is more autistic than I am and is hardcore numbers, works in one of the city councils over in WA, working out, doing all the rates and everything.
I know
like
who
that.
you're talking about.
You know,
Yes.
and his best mate, who I'm good mates with, is a very, very well respected
Just so that
tax
you know, that
accountant.
is two different people. Not
Two
that
different
he's
people,
not
two
talking
different
about
people.
himself.
No. Like, to be honest, these are the people I go to get information.
Yeah, no. I'm just
right?
saying that because you're like my best mate, and then his best mate.
Yeah. So anyway, we're in a three-way text chat.
Yep.
Right. And it would have been 6 months ago
Yeah.
that they're going to me, Perth's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Perth, like, and it's really interesting because traditionally a Perth boom is because of a mining boom.
Yeah.
But this is more traditional. This is, and I don't mean traditional as in money. I mean, it's more like the rest of the country. So if you look at the PropTrack report, the factors that they point out here are limited supply amid strong buyer demand has resulted in a seller's market with prices in Perth up 10.9% from their level a year ago, outpacing all other capitals. The relative affordability of the city's homes, population growth, and very tight rental markets are also supporting home values. So this isn't the influx of mining and people coming in.
No, this
because
is,
mining's cruising along. There
this
hasn't
is
been
people
this
going,
huge
hold
sort of
on,
drive.
you've got a lot of land over there.
And houses of value. For 550 grand, you can get some decent homes.
Yeah, on a decent sized block. It's
Yeah.
not like you're building like literally like it is in Sydney. God bless Sydney. Where it's like you can't even sneeze without, feeling it from your neighbour.
The walls vibrate from the neighbour's sneeze.
But funnily enough, there's actually a fence that's built down in between the two houses.
Yeah, that just reverberates. That's what that hum in Sydney is. If you ever spent much time there, there's just this background hum.
Yeah.
It's fences vibrating from people sneezing.
Yeah. No, like, and it was, sorry, Sydney. But with Perth, they've got the area. They've got the ability of being able to really take out.
It's some of the most beautiful coastline as well. And it was
And you know
stunning.
what? I've never been there, so yeah.
I
do want to go.
I was talking. We're going to go because
I want to go to Rottnest.
my bestie lives there, so we're going to go.
I want to go and see the happiest animal on earth.
You want to see the quokka?
That will throw their children out in front of them so they don't get eaten. But look at me, I'll do it when I'm smiling.
Eat my kids. But it's
And
funny
that's
because
Australia. No, I'm joking.
where my best mate's partner lives is unknown. I'm not going to give the name of the place away, but you can buy property there that's a street back from the beach or 2 streets back from the beach, and you're paying sixes.
Yeah.
Like 600, 700,000 for a decent property that's a few streets back.
So
because it's unknown and people sort of haven't looked west for a very, very long time.
So this is where potentially there could be a lot of people who can't actually move interstate for whatever reason, but can invest in that. Which means that they would be potentially open. This is like look into your own finances, like go and talk to someone.
Yeah, we
like,
are not qualified to give financial advice.
Do not. I've been drinking. Like, don't take advice from me.
We're having a kitchen table barbecue, round the barbie kind of bullshit chat.
Yeah. So do not take financial advice. But isn't there options out there that if you are wanting to purchase but you can't live in it, that there's like, I forget what they were doing something about it, where it was like if you don't live in it but you're still needing to rent, it's like a little bit of a
rent vesting.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, there's opportunities there. Obviously, you've got to qualify for the loan and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's interesting, and I think that Perth is seeing a renaissance. And that is I nearly spilled the wine.
Do you know he nearly committed his own what do you call it?
Taxi moment?
Cardinal sin.
Cardinal sin?
Because he's got technology and liquid around.
Yeah. I get grumpy at the kids when they even.
It's grumpy at me.
I do. That's because I don't trust anyone else but me, and maybe I shouldn't trust myself.
And look at me being all sensible, pushing it back further away from the edge so that I can't just.
I get expressive with my hands when I talk. It's just the way it is. All right. So we've covered off that. We've covered off prop text info.
Where's the 1 million houses that have
Where
gone
are they?
AWOL?
So this
Well, not having
has
gone
been
AWOL, just not used.
Well, that's the thing. That's a sensational headline. And if we dive in and look, we've jumped in and done a bit of research.
Wait a minute, you're telling me that the media's led me down a garden path?
Yeah, pretty much.
Shocked,
all right,
I tell you.
Let's just move on to the next segment. We've covered it all. Found the million houses. It's a media
It's
shitstorm.
fine.
No, look, essentially what these are, these are a million homes that were unoccupied on census night. And there's a whole heap of reasons for this, right? And I've got a list of the reasons here, so bear with me. The homes could be being renovated, and they're being renovated so someone's in temporary accommodation at that time.
Well, that makes sense.
Right? Homes are being sold as vacant possession, so someone's moved out to sell the property. So it's not actually an unoccupied home.
It's a transient.
It's a transient home. It's about to become occupied, right? Newly built or bought homes where no one has moved in yet. Again, it's transient. Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
Someone's about to move in.
It's not just going, I'm sitting here for 12 months and no one loves me.
Exactly. Rental homes awaiting new tenants. So for the first 4 reasons for the million unoccupied homes.
A very good reason.
A very good reason. They're unoccupied on census night, but come back in 2 weeks, they're probably not going to be unoccupied.
But
right?
then does leave the question as to what has then been replaced.
Well, this is where we get into the other reasons, right?
Because if you have one house that's going to be occupied, what happened to the house that they left? Get
well,
what I'm
that's
saying?
it. And if they're in temporary accommodation,
that's right.
Right. So there's a whole lot of reasons for this. It's not just there's a million homes sitting there without people living in them. Which, of course, at the time, if you remember, there was million vacant homes. Housing crisis isn't real. It was just...
It is real.
It's very real.
I'm pretty sure if you go and talk to a lot of people who live in houses, and even people who don't live in houses, will tell you that it's real.
Pretty sure they're all in agreement on this.
You don't need a census to actually tell you this.
Doesn't matter which side of you vote for and which side politically you lean to, right, left. Doesn't matter. We all agree there's a housing crisis.
There's a housing crisis.
So other reasons, people living away temporarily from home during census night, so traveling, visiting other homes, etc.
Yep.
Homes are deemed unlivable. So these are homes no one could live in anyway because they're in a pretty much decrepit state. So homes that are subject to probate application or other legal proceedings. So again, somebody can't
like
be living.
estates and stuff. Yep.
This is the one the media focused on. Notice how many reasons we've gone through before we get to this one.
Oh, the holiday homes.
Holiday homes.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
All of that
We're
sort
going
of
to
stuff.
target Airbnb and we're going to come after Airbnb.
Yeah, those damn people who
Yeah.
think that they have a right to actually invest in a property so that they can actually better themselves.
Look, the
in
government
life.
narrative has always been let's beat up on the little investors. Antonia's got a great quote about that I'm going to share shortly.
I do like it when Antonia unleashes.
I never
She
want
may
to
be
be
little, but don't let that fool
I
you.
never want to be on the receiving end of an Antonia rampage. Like that woman is my hero, but simultaneously I'm a little bit scared of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other reasons, homes owned by people currently living overseas and homes being land banked. What that means is someone's holding the home, they're keeping it vacant, and they're just waiting for the value of the area to come up to make it worthwhile to redevelop and turn into more homes, essentially.
Or
Now, holiday homes and homes being land banked make up a ridiculously small amount of the vacant homes.
tell me how much.
I don't actually have the number.
Oh, well,
I know.
you
I
can't
gone and
lead to
got
that.
it.
Jesus.
It's
Mary
like
and Joseph.
I know. It's just I know from previous stats, but I don't have the exact number, so I can't come and spit it out to you.
He had one job.
One job,
One
people.
job.
One job. But it's not the number the media try to make out.
No, because otherwise it would be too reasonable, and they don't want reasonable. They want people who are scared.
they want you to click on stuff. So Saturday night, October 28th,
We went to the REIQ
we were at the
Awards.
REIQ Awards.
And it was... So I know that there's going to be some people that are like, oh, they're going and, spending all of that amount of money when there's a housing crisis. I can definitely say the stuff that the REIQ... I sat there when Antonia was actually reading out the different stats that the REIQ works really hard to achieve.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why is this not more widely out there? Like,
Yeah.
I know that it's public record. Anyone can go and find it.
But most people don't know to go and look for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, and I was asking you tonight about the whole REIQ because I was asking you this for a reason. I don't know whether you had picked up on the reason, but I had spoken to a few other real estate agents that we know. Surprise, surprise, we know some. And some of them are REIQ, like they are REI, so real estate industry.
No, Real Estate Institute.
Institute,
so
sorry,
REIQ, Real Estate Institute of Queensland, REI NSW, Real Estate Institute New South Wales, REIV,
So
REI SA,
that's
REIT, REINT, and REI WA.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you got them all out. So the REIs of Australia, all you can be a member and be a real estate agent, but it's not a compulsory thing to be a member.
No, it's not.
Okay. So you can still have a real estate agent who isn't a member, and you can still have a member. Sorry, it's your fault. You gave me that stuff.
I'm about to go get more. You keep talking and figure it out. I'm gonna get more wine.
So the REI agents choose to actually be part of this membership, have this membership. Other agents, it's not compulsory. You don't have to be whatever. But when it comes to being a REI member, there is very, very they are on the.
Would you like me to break it down?
Yes, it's too hard.
Would you like more wine?
I don't think that's a good idea. I know that there's some people who listen to this that'll just be going, "Oh, Siarn, you're a train wreck."
It's been a big day. We're prepping for a garage sale. We got a kid in isolation with COVID. It's been a big day. I'll forgive you. So, look, the REI is essentially the major benefit of hiring an agent who is an REI member.
And I really hope that a lot of that gets cut.
No, it won't. We're going to leave it in there. It's going to be fun. But look, the major benefit is that REI agents who are members of an REI, so REIQ, for example, they subscribe to a code of ethics. They have best practices that they have to follow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of their membership, it's a condition of their membership. But also, in order to keep their membership current, they also need to engage in professional development and continue training. So they're always improving. They're always developing their professional skills. And you're getting significantly better qualified, better armed, better skilled agents because they are exposed to more of that growth, that training, and that opportunity.
Well, the other thing too is that if there is any changes, you don't want someone going, "Oh no, that's not right," and then you call another agent and they're like, "Well,"
for example, the Queensland just changed their seller disclosure laws. And so that...
I'm sorry, you said seller and I thought you were talking... I was really confused there for a moment.
Wine on the brain. No, they're seller disclosure laws. So the laws around what a seller must disclose to the agent must disclose to buyers.
Yes.
Okay. And so this was announced that the change had happened Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Friday, the REIQ is running training webinars for agents on what they need to know, how they need to approach it, how they need to educate their sellers, and so on and so forth, and when it comes into effect. And this gives you an idea of what an REI member agent is exposed to, where a non-member agent has to go searching for that and do their own training and find their own stuff themselves, right? And so there's huge benefit.
The other thing too is that other agents will eventually catch up.
They will, but the REI agents are they're still moving forward. The professional development.
If everyone out there, you can ask and you can go and look yourself as to whether they are an REI agent. So if you're wanting someone to give you want someone who is, up with all of their industry information, knowledge, compliance, all of that sort of stuff, you can ask, are you an REI agent?
Are you an REI member?
Member, yes. Agent,
and that's the key. Now, from the perspective of homeowners and tenants, the REIs actually they're the peak body for real estate in each individual state.
Yeah.
And they are the people's champion.
Yeah.
To put this in perspective,
Antonia did amazing things through COVID.
oh, incredible! And her whole team spearheaded the flood appeal.
Yeah.
To raise funds for the flood affected homes. I think that was only a couple of years ago.
They do a lot of stuff that people aren't.
They don't.
They don't.
They also are like they lobby the government to improve the situation. So, and this is what most people don't understand. They're the reason that controversial land tax for interstate investors got dumped in Queensland.
Yeah.
Right? Because the government was just going to put it through. They were like, no, we're doing it, we're pumping it. And Antonia and her team took the government to task on that and went to media, did the whole works. They spearheaded a campaign. There were others involved, but they spearheaded it and got that scrapped so that we could continue having investors investing in Queensland. Now, before everyone jumps down my throat and goes, investors are bad, keep in mind, as it currently stands, we cannot build properties without private investors.
Yeah.
Right? The government doesn't just go and build houses and go, I'm going to sell these houses. It's private investors, and most builders cannot actually...
does not do that at all.
No. But most builders cannot start building property until they've got a certain percentage of the estate sold, because they can't get finance for that.
Yeah.
Until they've got a certain amount of the estate pre-sold, a bank or a lender will not finance it.
Yeah.
The only people that it
Because
makes
even housing
sense,
commission homes were originally built that the government came along and said, all right, we'll buy
that kind of
that.
changed with NDIS. Not NDIS, sorry, the I can't remember it at the moment.
NRAS.
But NRAS, thank you very much. Yep, that one. But if the key thing is we actually need investors. And the media and the government loves to target them, but without them we can't get houses built.
Yeah.
And building houses is literally the only way we can solve the housing crisis.
Wait. You're telling me we build houses to live in, then we'll actually have somewhere to live, which means that
I know it seems like I'm speaking voodoo economics, but yes, that's the solution. We
shocked.
The way we solve the fact that we don't have enough houses is we just build more houses.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know. And look, coming back, so the REIQ champion, they champion for tenants, they champion for investors, they champion for sellers, they champion for agents, they champion for everybody involved in the real estate industry, and they do an incredible job, and that is led by the fearless, indomitable Antonia Mercarella, her trusty sidekick, Peter Brewer, who is the chairman of the REIQ. So Antonia's the CEO, Peter Brewer's the chairman, and they do an incredible job. We get to see them up close because we live in Queensland.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have the same relationship with other REIs because I'm not in those states. I hope to have that over the coming years because I know they do an incredible job. I'm just not exposed to it anywhere near as much. So this is not me shunning the other REIs. They do an amazing job. I just don't have the specifics and haven't witnessed it up firsthand.
Well, we also live in Queensland, so...
Yeah, and that's it. But coming back to the REIQ Awards, my favourite quote of the night.
That was some doozies.
Oh, there were some doozies. But this one was from Antonia, and it was handled with all of the grace and political savvy, but it was an absolute uppercut.
Yeah.
And it was, we all know that we have a housing crisis. And much like the fact we didn't suddenly fall into a housing crisis, it's going to take time to get out of it. And that requires us all working together.
Yeah.
And I thought, and that's not a direct, like I paraphrased, she was far more eloquent, but when you had both sides of government
she was pretty much standing there going, so who's going to be the one that pulls their finger out and does something about it?
It was just...
And not just...
a very...
I don't want these. I don't want these. I want actions. I want to see actual houses and not ones that go missing in a budget. But a really real house.
Antonia was on radio. I can't remember the station, and I've got their press release. I printed this off because this is brilliant, right? And she was talking about, she basically was giving a report card 1 year on from the housing summit that was held here in Queensland. And you know how much I love it when politicians get taken to task.
She does do that, but she does it because, hell, you know, that's...
Let me let me
It
share.
needs to be done.
Let me share some wonderful quotes. Some of
Go
my
for
favorite
it.
quotes.
She always entertains me.
ABS building approval data shows we are approving the same number of homes as we did in the 80s, when the population was half of what it is today, Ms. Mercarella said.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
cool.
Over the past 12 months to September, 33,755 new dwellings were approved across the state, when the Housing Industry Association says we need 40,000 plus per annum in southeast Queensland alone. Right now, there needs to be that gif of Kelso from that 70s show going, burn! Social housing approvals remain static, with only 430 approved in the past 12 months to service Queensland's rapidly growing population. Again, compared to close to 2,000 per year in the 80s.
So what have you got?
Burn!
What have you got to say, Pollies?
Meanwhile, the Housing Investment Fund has not built a single house. The size of the hedge fund is irrelevant if there are no tangible outcomes for Queenslanders doing it tough.
So, do you know? Okay, I think I've touched on it before, but I'm going to touch on it again. So the Queensland government had come in and politely asked these elderly people living in a retirement village down here down in Redland Bay if they would kindly move along, because they were living in 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom units that they've been living there for the past 20 odd years, right? Privately owned.
Mm-hmm. Privately owned, yep.
Little retirement village.
Can you move along, because you should only be in 1 bedroom.
You should only be in 1 bedroom. So that little retirement village that was privately owned, the people who owned all of it, then turned around and went, okay, you have to move now. Mm-hmm. And so the Queensland government came in, and guess what the Queensland government did? We've found houses for people to live in. Isn't it fantastic?
Yeah, we just kicked old ladies.
So we've
little
just
old ladies.
kicked.
Your grandma's now out on the street.
Your grandma's homeless, but it's fine. We've got people
In a retirement village, you said?
Yeah. So they went and bought a retirement village, right? Retirement village. So that they could have and say, oh, we managed to house more people. No, you didn't house more people. You just reduced the amount of people who were needing to find a home. You still have homeless people.
Yep. So continuing on with the wonderful...
Rant over.
the wonderful Ms. Mercarella.
Mm-hmm.
The rate of prefabricated housing being delivered has fallen short of the modest target of 80 a year, with just 2 built to June 30. Just 2. Target was 80. Just 2.
Okay, I just have to say this. If I was a salesperson and I went to my boss and I went, you know how you asked me to do like 80 sign-ups? Yeah, I've only done 2.
Like, this is why I freak out.
He says.
After he nearly knocks it himself.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, I'm pretty damn sure that you would not have a job
I know.
after June 30.
Hey, I'd fire you. If that was, I would fire
Exactly.
you.
It wouldn't. It's
Right?
not even, did you get half? No,
Yeah.
no, I didn't
It's
get
like, hey,
half.
baby.
I got 2.
Baby, I still want to marry you, but you're fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personal, we're good.
We're
Professional,
good.
you're fired.
Right, yeah.
That'd be hard to be approaching that.
Personal, we're fine.
Continuing on with my personal hero. It is also disappointing to read reports that the state government is yet to submit an application for the conversion of the Pinkenbar facility to emergency accommodation 5 months after announcing they would. Get ready for the burn, get ready for the Kelso. Announcements and social media posts do not house our most vulnerable. Burn.
As a social media person,
If you don't back up what you do,
it's not even that. If you are going to take 5 months to do something,
don't announce it.
you don't announce it. You go, hey, keep watching. Wait until things are happening. And then when it actually opens and you got people in there, that's when you go, hey guys,
Mm-hmm.
look what we've just done. Isn't it amazing? Who's doing their social media? Like, that's disgusting.
Someone needed an
They
announcement.
need to be sacked.
Someone needed a positive announcement. No, someone got told to post that.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
That would have been how it was. So following up, jab, jab, jab. We've seen a right hook. We're back
Yeah.
to jabs. Tax concessions, another quote from Antonia. Tax concessions have been provided to large institutional investors to build more rentals, but there has been nothing for smaller, everyday private investors, she said. Why is there reluctance to apply that incentive approach to the average investor who might own 1 to 2 properties when the principle of wanting to create more building supply is the same? What a wonderful question, particularly being the government loves and the media loves to demonize the private investor who owns 1 to 2 properties as being greedy fat cats, but happily ignores the fact that corporate investors are getting tax incentives, discounts, and all the rest of it to not do anything. Because that's essentially what's happening. They're not building enough, but they're getting all these incentives to do so.
Yeah, why don't they get cut and just like, you know what? If you have not built within the next 6 months, not that you know, have, what do they call it? Broken ground. Not broken ground, that you are building where you can actually see a construction is happening.
Yep. And by
If
the way,
it is not happening in 6 months of you being granted this, because let's face it, shit can get done really, really quickly when there's an incentive there.
yep, it can. It can. One of my favorite quotes. These because they're about stamp duty. They're about stamp duty, right? Antonio goes on to say, stamp duty imposes additional costs on property transactions, which discourages turnover of housing and distorts choices between renting and buying, she said. Yet stamp duty thresholds have remained static for over a decade, and there's been no innovative thinking on how we can abolish, if not erode, this major roadblock.
So she's essentially just gone, what the hell are you doing with that money? Like, there's been no innovation.
We've done nothing.
When the whole Queensland government's going, oh, we love innovation. We love supporting small companies and startups, and which is we love that.
Oh, this gets good. I didn't see this one before because it wasn't in quotes. This is a paraphrase quote in the press release.
Oh, that's when they're. It's normally when they're really good. They're being paraphrased.
Miss Mercarella said, in the rental regulation space, property managers, leases, and tenants were exhausted by continuous legislative change and sloppy implementation. When a significant change to the way rent can be increased in Queensland was tacked onto an unrelated bill and rushed through without any consultation, we rightly raised the alarm, she said. That legislation led to more confusion and sparked a number of terminations, as we forewarned. And we're not done yet. Stage 2 rental law reforms are yet to be implemented. These will most certainly further destabilise our strained rental market. And this is my favourite part, because what have we said we want to happen?
Oh,
we want stamp duty. We want all of this to be an election issue.
Yeah.
In the lead up, direct quote from Antonia, in the lead up to next year's election, there will no doubt be a focus on housing from the major parties. It is imperative they are held to account for their announcements and they are measured against their promises. End.
This is the thing that frustrates me, and I even said it, and the thing that frustrates me is I have lived in the Redlands all my life, pretty much.
Yep.
Give a year or two. And there has been so many things that have been stifled here in the Redlands, and you just go, why? And then you've got it to the point where people are going, it's too freaking expensive to live here.
Yeah.
And then they're going, oh, but come back. We need you. Come back. Don't leave. And it's just like, it's too expensive. Maybe, just maybe, I don't know, shocking and all, maybe if you didn't have things so freaking expensive, people would stay.
Well, and we've talked about the cost of developing new properties and how the cost of operational works and what that adds to the property, and stamp duty as the property and all of the fees and that. We did an episode talking about how in some cases up to 52% of the value of a new home and land package is in red tape, taxes,
it's stupid.
duties, and all that sort of stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I am so thrilled, and I hope that the other REIs take up the call if they haven't already. Obviously, I need to get on their mailing lists and see what they're pushing and how they're hammering. But as I said,
Well,
Antonia
NSW has
is,
changed the
they're changing stamp duty. Absolutely. REI NSW, that was under Dominic Periots. I can't remember his last name properly, but that was something there. We need to check to see if that's gone through so we can update everybody if it has. But yeah, look, no JTM this week purely because
he gave Siarn wine and she got on a rant.
well, not only that, I haven't had a chance to go down any rabbit holes in the last little while. Like, it's been hectic.
We've been too busy.
But
I think we will have one about the garage sale because there's a couple
Oh,
of little.
we'll do that, and then there's a few other bits and pieces that we can do. We've been on adventures. You got to go down to Smidge.
Yes.
That should probably be an
Right.
STM.
Yeah.
You went on a social media
Content
content creation trip down to Smidge Wines.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, I had.
I had one of Australia's best winemakers make me dinner.
I know, and I am jealous because
You weren't there.
you know what he's when I've been there. You know what he's made me pizza. It's been amazing pizza, but it's been pizza.
Yeah, no, I got steak.
I know.
And not just
you
like
sent me
this stuff
photos.
was amazing.
Yeah,
like this is
like you could have eaten it raw and it melted in your mouth.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And Matt and I are going to have words when I'm down at the end of November. I'm
You
telling
won't.
you. Yeah.
He'll just be like, "Shut up."
I'll just be like, Matt, where's my
No,
steak?
he won't do that.
No, Matt's too polite for that.
He'll just be like, "Yes, Jay.
Yeah, he'll just roll his
Eat
eyes
your
at me.
pizza."
Yeah. As long as he gives it to with some Fume Sauv Blanc, I'll be happy.
Look, given the fact that I don't normally like white, I am enjoying this.
It's an awesome drop. It is fantastic. But yeah, so there's your market update. We've quick recap. If I can pull the right stats, so
And if there is
annual growth 7.51% in Sydney, 0.64% in Melbourne, which is down 3.9% from its peak. Sydney is now at a new peak. Brisbane is at a new peak after 7.36% annual growth. Adelaide's at a new peak after 8.7% annual growth. Perth is at a new peak after 10.9% annual growth. So these major cities, they're coming back hard. By the way, one thing we didn't cover, and I hate that we're going to cover it in the last few minutes of the episode, there is still value if you head out to the regions.
Oh, there always will be.
And there always will be. And I think it's with more of the digital lifestyle coming into play, more of the work from home, all that, it's starting to make sense to start moving out there. There's more infrastructure happening out there. And I think that there's some value in the regions. Maybe that's an entire episode that we do.
I think it might be.
And
but
we
I
cover
think on that note, we're going to have to say goodbye.
I think we do. Thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for letting us rant. And we really appreciate you guys listening in. If you've made it to the end, you've done well. And like and subscribe, share the podcast, help us grow this community and help us keep you informed in a way.
And if you have any questions that
is very clearly not stuffy and stuck up.
If you have any questions that you want answered or want investigated, or even if you actually want to discuss with us, we would love to hear from you. So
absolutely.
But yeah, we're going to go so I can go to sleep.
You've got a button to push now.
Yeah. Night.